You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Definitely the baseball offseason, because a short time ago I was at lunch with my mom and they had NBC Sports Network on, and evidently Chase Field in Phoenix is playing host to drone racing. So it is fully the offseason.
Have you ever seen drone racing, though, outside of this one experience?
It's so cool looking. Yeah, I've never seen it like live or anything, but yeah, it's definitely, I get it, man. I mean, drone racing is basically a real life 90s video game. Like, that's stuff that, like, you know, when I don't know, the original PlayStation or something came out, there were, what was that one game for Super Nintendo where you're like, oh god, I'm not going to be able to remember the name of this. This is going to drive me insane. But where you're like falling from the sky and you have to go through the rings on the way down. Oh, no.
I don't remember this one. The only thing I was thinking of it was it's almost like Tron in the sky.
Okay.
In a way. You know, Tron, the video game.
Yeah. Pilot Wings, it was called.
Wow. That was a quick Google.
Thank goodness SNES game Falling from Sky brought up that title, because I would not have known. But, you know, drone racing is kind of like that.
Yeah,
sorry.
Sure.
Please continue.
No, it's just it just seems so futuristic in such a way, like we were promised this at some point in our lives.
Right, exactly.
That
at some point,
not only
something cool like this is going to come along. Yeah, that is true. It is very true. And here it is. We live in the future. And that's evidently what Chase Field does over the offseason. So now we all know. So, hey, with that, we welcome you into this week's episode of The Show Before the Show from MILB.com, episode 238. My name is Tyler Mon with your nonsensical ramblings, and with your serious baseball knowledge and insight is Sam Dykstra in New York City. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Tyler. And I guess I'm the one bringing the Jeff Bridges references. As well. If that's going to be my niche, I will fully own it. I'm totally okay with it. Look for a True Grit random reference at some point later in this.
Outstanding. The remake. You're not going to go John Wayne original references.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the Jeff Bridges movie. This is totally a Jeff Bridges podcast now. I'm actually wearing an eye patch. That is the True Grit reference.
Nice.
That's what we're going to go with. Yeah.
I like it. So we welcome you in. We talk about minor league baseball on this podcast, The Show Before the Show. It's a pun, see? They call Major League Baseball The Show, and this is a show that talks about minor league baseball. Get it? So we're diving into 3 strikes for this week's episode. But before we do, we thank you for joining us on this week's episode of The Show Before the Show. And we know that you can give us a rating and a review and a subscription wherever you find us. You can also get in touch with the show, podcast at MILB.com. And you can get up to speed on Copa. And as we announced just a couple of weeks ago, more than 20 new minor league teams will join the Copa de la Diversión Chase in 2020, the Hispanic Fan Engagement Initiative, fresh off its second full season. And congratulations again to the Mariachis de Nuevo Mexico. Celebrates the cultural contributions of Hispanic communities across over 90 minor league cities through culturally significant on-field identities, in-stadium accommodations and entertainment options, and community impact. Copa celebrates a Hispanic community whose love for the game of baseball has driven the sport forward. Visit MILB.com/fans/Copa or follow minor league baseball on social media at MILB to find out more about each identity and initiative. Let's get started. 3 strikes. We talk about 3 burning topics across the world of minor league baseball. And topic the first this week, the Rule 5 draft is in the books, and some names that you've heard of and some names that you maybe have not changed teams last week at the winter meetings in San Diego. And Sam has the lowdown on all of them. Sam, what are the biggest takeaways from the Rule 5 draft this year?
Yeah, so this is something we teased out at the end of last week's show because we recorded just before the Rule 5 draft. Didn't want to get too much involved in a preview in which those of you listening over the weekend would already know the names. Now we have them for sure. We've been able to chew on them for a week. 11 players were picked. I believe that's the lowest since 9 were taken in 2013. The Rule 5 draft, it's always exciting from a minor league standpoint because this is a chance for guys who aren't on 40-man rosters to get their major league chances. But the effectiveness of it in recent years has kind of worn off a little bit. It's difficult to find Rule 5 success stories, guys who are sticking for a full season and succeeding, not only doing that. Last year, only 3 of the 14 players picked stuck with their teams for all of 2019. Those are Richie Martin with the Orioles, Elvis Luciano with the Blue Jays, and Brandon Brennan with the Mariners. None posted a WAR higher than 0.1. So when we look at success stories like Brad Keller in 2018, who had a 2.6 WAR, or Odubel Herrera, who had a 3.8 WAR in 2015, it's a little bit more difficult to say like, oh, hey, get really, really excited about this group. That being said, there are some really interesting picks here. I'll run through them real quick, and we'll talk about who's most likely to stick of this group. The Tigers went with Yankees right-hander Rony Garcia at number 1. Brandon Bailey of the Astros went to the Baltimore Orioles at number 2. Sterling Sharp, a former Nationals prospect, now goes to the Miami Marlins. He'll be trying to crack that bullpen. Steven Woods Jr. goes from the Rays to the Royals. Yohan Ramirez will try to join the Seattle Mariners bullpen coming from the Houston Astros system. Mark Payton goes from the A's and also Team USA. Tyler, you called many of his games during the Premier League.
Fun player.
Yeah. He goes from the A's to the Cincinnati Reds, trying to stick with them. Danny Jimenez goes from the Blue Jays to the Giants. The Mail Machine goes from the Cubs via the Phillies to the A's. The Phillies made the pick. They traded him to the A's. The A's now have his Rule 5 rights. Trevor McGill goes from the Padres to the Cubs. He'll try to stick with Chicago. Jonathan Aruz goes from the Astros to the Red Sox, where he'll try to be a utility infielder. And finally, Michael Rucker goes from the Cubs to the Orioles. The Orioles being the only team with multiple picks, they make 2 there, again, in Michael Rucker and in Rony Garcia. Now, in terms of who I think is most likely to stick, the Orioles also took Brandon Bailey. I got those confused there for a second. Rony Garcia, again, went to the Tigers. In terms of who's most likely to stick, again, you have to keep this in sort of this historic context of 3 of 14 last year. It's very unlikely that more than half of these guys are going to make it this year. So we have to kind of temper our expectations a little bit. When I did a tool shed on this, going from 1 to 5 for stickiness level, that's what I call it. I only gave out 1.5, and that's to Brandon Bailey. The Orioles rode out last year with Richie Martin in their infield, despite him having a pretty difficult year jumping from the A system. This is clearly a team. They've made some interesting cuts. They've traded away Dylan Bundy this offseason. They've got rid of Jonathan Villar after he was arguably one of their better players last year. They are trying to give young talent a chance and trying to carve out roles, for long-term projects. So Bailey kind of fits into that now. He's now their number 21 prospect in what is an improving system. He's got 3 above average pitches in his fastball, curveball, and change. He had a 3.30 ERA and struck out 103 and 92 2/3 innings last year at AA. So he's basically major league ready. The Orioles said ahead of the Rule 5 draft that they were expecting him, or they were expecting to take somebody that would provide rotation help. This is essentially what Bailey can be. They're going to give him a long look in that rotation. He would have to really struggle not to stick with them for the full year. And even then, they might stash him as a long reliever if they want to look at other starting options, and we know some of those are coming right around the corner for that Baltimore system. Some of the other 4s, Rony Garcia going to the Tigers. The Tigers are in rough shape coming off a 47-win season. They're going to have the roster space on their 26-man roster. They could have had anybody. They had the first overall pick. They go with Garcia here. He's got a mid to upper 90s fastball. He's got a solid breaking ball. That's more or less typical Rule 5 stuff when we're thinking about, okay, what does this pitcher have that could pitch in the major leagues right now? He's been worked as a starter in the Yankee system. We know that Yankees team, their 40-man roster was already chock full of talent. Tough to find a spot for Garcia. He now becomes Detroit's number 21 prospect. So again, they can't afford to just lose talent at a time when they're probably not going to win this year anyways. Try to keep Garcia around, try to mold him into the type of pitcher they believe he can be. I gave his stickiness potential a 4 out of 5. Sterling Sharp, I mentioned him in a preview a while back. He was kind of a surprise, non-protected pick by the Nationals. Super elite ground ball pitcher, which I think really works in today's game in which a lot of guys are trying to elevate the ball. He's going to continually get you to pound it into the grass. The Marlins are going to use him as a long man out of the bullpen right now. He probably can't crack their rotation, but he has a history as a starter. I think he's got a really good chance there. One that I find really, really interesting was Yohan Ramirez going from the Astros to the Mariners. Among minor leaguers with at least 100 innings in 2019, Yohan Ramirez had the eighth highest strikeout rate, at 33.8%. And then he also had the highest walk rate at 15.8%. So essentially, about 52% of the batters were either striking out or walking. That's an incredibly modern pitcher, but it's also an incredibly volatile one. I think the Mariners are kind of in the same space as the Tigers and the Orioles, maybe to a lesser degree. They should win a few more games than those other clubs, but they're going to want to stash talent as well. The thing is, Ramirez could potentially strike everybody out in the spring and carve out a bullpen role for himself, or he could really struggle with his control, and it's difficult to stash those guys when there's the potential of you bring them in. When we have this new rule coming in for 2020 in which relievers or any pitcher really has to face at least 3 batters or get to the end of an inning. If he faces 3 batters and walks all 3, that doesn't do anybody any good. So he's going to have to really harness that control. The stuff is there. It's tough for me to bet on pitchers with tough control, even if he is moving from a starting role to a relief one. One who I just don't see sticking, and a lot of these guys I don't see sticking. If I haven't mentioned them, it's probably because I don't see it happening. But the Red Sox going with Jonathan Aruz. Aruz, some of you might know, came over from the Phillies in what was at the time the Ken Giles, Mark Appel trade. A lot of guys switching sides in that one between the Phillies and the Astros. But a pretty good defensive player, has really struggled with the bat the last couple of years. He only has an OPS above 700 once in his 5 minor league seasons. The fact that he's a Rule 5 pick, 26-man roster now. The pitchers are capped, I think, at 13. So there's going to be more space for these utility types, and he could certainly be that. But for a Red Sox team that, for all intents and purposes, should be a contender next year, should be trying to contend, the idea of them carrying a Rule 5 pick and one who, it's really difficult if you've never hit minor league pitching to start hitting major league pitching. And to stash a bat like his for a full year, I just don't see it. It got even more complicated when they signed Jose Peraza, who could potentially be exactly the same as Aruz with at least he's seen major league pitching. So that is a 1. I almost would give it a 0. I don't fault the Sox for bringing him in and trying to see if it's going to work. But, at this time when Rule 5 picks, we have to really scratch our heads and say, okay, what are you going to do to change the tide and actually be somebody? I just don't see a fit here. But go to the tool shed, check that out and see what I think about some of these other guys. We could make a whole podcast out of the Rule 5 picks. But for the most part, just know you're looking at this through the lens of, yes, it's exciting to add these guys, but for the most part, most of these 11 will not be sticking for the duration of 2020.
Strike 2 this week, likewise a Tool Shed column, and it is the one from yesterday. We're recording on Wednesday the 18th, in which we name the all-MILB team for the 2019 season. A lot of guys who probably won't surprise you, some huge names across the minor leagues like Luis Robert and Gavin Lux, and some other names that maybe you haven't been quite as keyed into just how good their 2019 seasons were. Sam, run us through the all-MILB team this year.
Yeah, so I'll just run through the picks real quick and then circle back to some names that, like Tyler mentioned, maybe we haven't mentioned for most of the year. Catcher, I have David Freitas, who split his year between the Milwaukee and Seattle systems, mostly playing at AAA. Kevin Cron at first base. Yep, the guy won the Bauman Home Run Award. Of course, he's going to be here. Second baseman, I have Josh Rojas, somebody who got traded from the Astros to the D-backs. At third base, I have Ty France, somebody we talked a lot about this year. Shortstop, Gavin Lux, should not be any surprise. Outfielders, top 100 prospects across the board. I tried to do this prospect blind, but this was really difficult for me to pick anybody else other than Luis Robert, Dylan Carlson, and Jared Kelnick. Utility player, which is usually a fun one for our organization All-Stars. I had some fun here as well. I went with Jared Walsh of the Los Angeles Angels system. I'm going to circle back to that one in a second. Right-handed starter, Joe Ryan of the Tampa Bay Rays system. Left-handed starter, again, a familiar name, Mackenzie Gore of the San Diego Padres. And then relief pitcher, we had a relief pitcher Milby award. I couldn't go with anybody other than Jackson Reese of the Toronto Blue Jays. Some ones I want to kind of circle back to because just, again, we haven't mentioned them that much this year. David Freitas actually won the minor league batting title this year. He hit .381, which was the most among minor league full season qualifiers. Corbin Joseph was second at .371. That came in a year where AAA started using the Major League Baseball and offense took off at the minors top level. But the fact that Freitas beat anybody else among full season qualifiers by a full 10 points really stood out to me there. And the fact that he did all of that as a catcher, which we know is a defensively demanding position, to do that well offensively as well, give some bonus points there, move him there. Second baseman Josh Rojas. There was an interesting story that came out after the trade involving Zach Greinke in that, the two sides mostly had an agreement on who was going to go over from Houston to Arizona for Greinke. Seth Beer was involved in that. J.D. Lukaskis was involved in that. Corbin Martin was involved in that. It seemed like, okay, they could settle on those three. And for the Astros, somehow Rojas was the tipping point. They weren't really sure if they wanted to let him go because he was having such a strong season. This is a guy, he played multiple positions this year. He actually, after the trade to Arizona, mostly played outfield, but because he mostly played second base in the minors, we have him in the second base slot here. He finished hitting .332, .418, .606 with 23 homers and 33 stolen bases. Tough to find any other second baseman with a more exciting year than that in the minor leagues. One other one I'll throw out there, Walsh is the one I wanted to come back to. One of the Angels ranked prospects, he comes in at number 20. Everything that stands out with him is his bat for the most part. He finished third in the minors with 36 homers, hit .325, .423, .686 in his 98 games at AAA Salt Lake, which is a 1.109 OPS. That was actually tops across all full season minor leaguers. He was going to have a spot on this team at some point. The reason he moves to the utility spot is he also pitched, and we're not talking about spot duty here and there. He legitimately got 13 innings and 13 appearances with the Salt Lake Bees, usually threw around 93. That was his average fastball in the majors when he did get some chances there. At a time when I've said before, the major league roster is going to switch to 26 and they're going to allow for two-way players as a designation. Walsh has a little bit more value. The fact that he could do both and do both fairly well, he had a 4.15 ERA to go with those 36 homers he hit as a hitter. That's really special stuff, and that's what got him here over maybe some other really, really good hitters that could do a lot with the stick but didn't have the same two-way potential that Jared Walsh did. So those are the picks for all MILB team this year. I want to stress one thing is that these are my selections. This isn't something that was handed down by somebody. This isn't minor league baseball's official team. This is more or less my thing, but it's a way to celebrate the best of the best from the 2019 season.
And that brings us to strike three, and we wrap up our opening segment with a couple of deals that caught our eye from some hot stove action. One of them a dude who I've had a prospect crush on for quite some time. Buddy Reed goes from the San Diego Padres to the Oakland Athletics, formerly the 25th ranked Padres prospect, as the player to be named later to complete a December 2nd trade in an original deal which sent Jurickson Profar to the Padres and Austin Allen to the A's. Buddy Reed has been in that system for 4 years. 2016 second rounder. The defense has been great, really good speed, not a ton at the plate as of yet. And the other deal, Steele Walker, one of the best names in minor league baseball, was traded to Texas in a deal that was kind of baffling actually when it happened. Steele Walker, of course, formerly the 6th-ranked prospect in the White Sox system and a second-round pick out of Oklahoma in 2018, an outfielder. He goes for Nomar Mazara, who goes to Chicago, which was kind of, I think, caught a lot of people off guard. But Sam, your reaction to these two deals?
Yeah, so the Buddy Reed one was actually very interesting because Buddy Reed went unprotected by the Padres on the 40-man roster. He could have been picked in the Rule 5 draft. Didn't. The second he didn't get picked, basically the A's announced, like, oh, by the way, he's a player to be named later. So that was kind of an interesting wrinkle. We're going to have to keep an eye on that because that also happened with another deal. We talked last week about Will Wilson, the 2019 first-rounder, going from the Angels to the Giants. Well, another person who got involved as a player to be named later, and that was Garrett Williams, who was also Rule 5 eligible, didn't get picked, then gets used as a player to be named later. But Buddy Reed has tools across the board in athleticism, and I do like that he joins the Oakland Athletics. I think that's really apt. But in a really, really gifted outfielder, tons of speed to work from. It's just the hit tool that's going to be in question, and the power as well. He's 24 years old, played at the University of Florida. He'll actually be teaming up again with A.J. Puck. They were both Florida Gators at the same time, so that's kind of special and fun. But he hit just .228 with a .698 OPS this year, 14 homers, 23 stolen bases. He played at Amarillo, which is, as we found out this year, a really, really good park for hitters. Even then, couldn't crack a 700 OPS in the Texas League. He's going to have to show something with the stick because as good as he could be as a 4th outfielder and just chase balls down as a defensive replacement or pick up bags as a pinch runner, you have to have some value with the bat as well. And it's not quite there. That's why nobody took him in the Rule 5 draft. That's why the Padres allowed him to go unprotected. But the A's will try to figure that out for him and try to unlock something in him because everything else is already there. If he can just hit and be an average hitter, he brings tons of value everywhere else. So kind of exciting to see him get a little bit of a change of scenery and see how things can work out for him as he enters his 5th minor league season. Steele Walker was a 2nd-round pick in 2018 out of the University of Oklahoma. Hit .284 with an .811 OPS this year, 10 homers, 13 stolen bases between Class A Kannapolis and Class A Advanced Winston-Salem. Flipping him for Mazara feels like the White Sox are buying low on Mazara. We talked about him as a top 100 prospect in years past, and it always felt like, okay, he's going to work it out. Never quite got to the ceiling we all envisioned for him. The White Sox swoop in. They're obviously trying to contend in 2020 with some of the moves they made. So they move him. Walker joins a Ranger system that is kind of heavy on these types of players. He becomes the number 12 prospect in the system, but he's ranked behind Leody Taveras, ranked behind Bubba Thompson. What is he going to do to kind of break past that? We'll have to see. Doesn't have necessarily a plus tool on the board. His hit tool is seen as above average, but he doesn't really have the arm to maybe stick in center field. He's just got average speed. Could certainly be, a league average outfielder or something like that if he hits the ceiling. But to get basically just him for Nomar Mazara, who is still filled with tons of potential, still fairly young, was a bit of a head scratcher for my end. But we'll see what the Rangers can do with Walker now that he is a Texas Ranger.
And that wraps up 3 Strikes on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. The 4th-ranked prospect in the Detroit Tiger system joins us on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show, the final one before the end of 2019. Tarik Skubal, who jumped into the Tiger system in 2018 in the 9th round out of Seattle University and rocketed through his first full professional season this year with Class A Advanced Lakeland and AA Erie. How's the offseason going, man? Thanks for joining us. What's been going on?
Yeah, thanks for having me. The off-season's been good. Just settling into a house and doing a little remodel stuff, and that's pretty much it.
So this first full pro season for you, I would imagine when you look back, probably feels like a whirlwind. You were in short season ball last year in both the GCL and the New York Penn League in your draft year. Made it up to the Midwest League and got a few games in with West Michigan. But this year, you go wire to wire, 24 starts, and the numbers from those 24 starts with Lakeland and Erie, like if you're looking at Tarik's MILB.com page, you probably think like, did somebody put these in wrong? Because they're like that good. A 6-8 record, a 2.42 ERA, 179 strikeouts, and 122 and 2/3 innings. When you look back on this year, what does it feel like to have that first full season under your belt and have it be a season like this?
It's awesome, just from a confidence standpoint too, being confident out there and being consistent every game, and start to start trying to be as consistent as you can. And then obviously once you see success, the confidence starts to grow. So it was huge for me to start my career like that.
When you got into pro ball, you get drafted in 2017 in the 29th round by the D-backs. You go back to school at Seattle U, and the Tigers come for you in the 9th round. And that first season, we talk so much to college guys about how long that season can be. When you get into your draft year, you get sent off to your first pro stops, and you're playing really a season from January and February in your college year all the way through August into September. For you especially, coming off a Tommy John surgery that took out your 2017 and a lot of your 2016, that must have been exhausting. And obviously the Tigers very much were mindful of that. You only go out for 9 games in that debut season. But to have that first year under your belt, what was the summer of 2018 like, kind of getting acclimated to pro ball and being healthy again and all of that really all at the same time?
It was good to just kind of establish a routine and take care of the body, because you are playing for a very long time and you are away from home for a very long time too. So it was good just to establish a routine and start taking care of my body, whether it be from January through September or a season of like April through then. So.
And whether it was that year or this year, especially because, you really hit the ground running, only giving up 2 earned runs in your first 3 starts. But at what point did you feel like, okay, this is really going to work for me? I'm not just an average 9th rounder. I'm going to be somebody who can climb up this Tiger system and really find that consistent level of success that you've found so far in your career.
I'm just very confident in my ability and confident in how I carry myself. And I know what I bring to the plate. I know when I toe the rubber, I kind of just really believe in myself and I trust what I'm trying to do. And I try and just pitch to my strength. So I don't really necessarily think, where I'm going to start or where I want to climb, but it's more of just being confident in myself and pitching to my strength and just kind of controlling how much effort I put into things. And that's what my focus is on.
And when you look back at what Tyler mentioned, the Tommy John surgery knocked you out for a lot of 2016, all of 2017 at Seattle. Arizona comes calling and you decide to go back for one more year. Going back to what that spring was like with, your eventual final draft year with Seattle to where you are now as a pitcher, trying to build yourself back up to a healthy standpoint, but also a successful standpoint. I know you struggled a little bit with control in that spring of 2018, but what has allowed you to grow to where you are now? How do you think you've changed the most as a pitcher?
I think it was just mentally. I struggled a lot in college when I was coming back. I was just trying to do too much and just not being myself on the mound, just trying to be a perfectionist, which I think there's a time and place for trying to be perfect and executing pitches, but just being really hard on myself. And I was out of the game for like a year and a half, just not competing in a college environment, and that just took some time to get adjusted. It felt like I was a freshman all over again, trying to control like the anxiety that comes and control your breathing and all that stuff. But getting back into it and just a longer time I was out there on the mound and pitching, I think that was huge for me. And then just staying healthy as well.
And when you did enter the Tigers system, obviously the results have been here, but what have you latched onto in terms of their pitching philosophy or their pitching development that you believe has helped you take off in this way as well?
They've always just put me in a position to have success. I've been pretty open with them in terms of what I'm doing, and they've always put me in places to have success and build confidence that way. So I mean, that's huge. That's a huge part to me.
Tarik, that system right now is so loaded with pitching prospect, and you right now are the third-ranked prospect in the organization and the fourth-ranked prospect overall. Casey Mize at number 1, Matt Manning at number 2. But even the rest of the top 10, Franklin Perez is at number 6, Alex Fido is at number 9, Joey Wentz is at number 10. Some guys who I know scuffled a little bit in AAA this year, Bo Burrows and Kyle Funkhauser are still in there. It's a system that has such good depth at your position from both lefties and righties right now. To be, and obviously this is more of a kind of spring training question, but even a question of just being in the same clubhouse as some of these guys as you were with Casey last year and Matt. What is it like being with a group that's so deep at your spot? I mean, it's one thing to be a talented and ranked prospect. You got so many other guys who are making that climb with you who are so talented at that same position. What has that been like for you?
Yeah, it's awesome to be around those guys and those guys that are extremely gifted and extremely talented and watch how those guys work. I think creating that environment where everyone's competing with each other, iron sharpens iron, you know what I'm saying? So, being around those guys and trying to learn from what they're trying to do or see how they're having success and understanding how you can apply that to your game or understanding that you're different than these guys. You pitch differently and understanding that, but also understanding what they're doing in certain situations and the experience that they have and the knowledge that they have and that everybody's willing to kind of help each other out, which I think is very unique. But yeah, I feel like everyone wants everyone to have success, whether it be me, Casey, Fido, Manning, Wentz, the list goes on of the guys that I've played with. So it doesn't matter. I feel like everybody wants each other to succeed and play well with each other.
How much is the conversation about, one of the things that I think is always coolest to hear about from pitchers is when you learn something from another guy, the famous story, obviously, of Mariano Rivera teaching Roy Halladay his cutter and that kind of thing. What do you like learning from other guys, and what do other guys come to you to try to learn about what you do?
I like to learn as much as I can from everybody, whether it be how somebody takes care of their body or certain pitch grips or something like that. I learned my slider, / cutter thing from Adam Wolf. I was like, hey, man, I know you throw a cutter. I did my research on him coming into the draft, and we were with each other in Connecticut. And I was like, hey, man, how do you grip that? I got to learn that pitch because that's something I'm trying to add. And he showed me it, and I was like, all right. And then the next, I think I had an outing 2 days later, and I was like, I might as well try it out right now. And ever since then, I've thrown it a lot, no matter what situation I'm in. It's been an important pitch for me. So, that's something huge just in terms of asking something so simple as a pitch grip, but also Manning's got the big power curveball, and that's something that I'm trying to add into my pitch repertoire, and he's been very helpful to me with all that stuff.
And while we're talking about repertoires and arsenals and pitches you have going for you, what do you feel like was most effective in generating the amount of strikeouts you got? Because Tyler mentioned how many strikeouts you had on the year, but just to read out for people who don't know your body of work, your first 6 starts with Erie. You got 11 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts, 13 strikeouts, down to 6, and then back-to-back 10 strikeouts again. You were getting whiffs the second you got to Double-A, which is a big jump going from the FSL to Erie. How were you able to get guys swinging and missing that consistently? What about your pitches changed this year that allowed that to happen?
I felt like I was just very aggressive and competitive in the strike zone and just kind of let my stuff play over the plate, and I wasn't going to back down from a hitter, and I felt like I was always getting strike one, and then after strike one, getting strike two, and then that's a situation where you can do a lot of things. You can expand off the plate, you can expand up in the zone, you can do a lot of different things, and you can get away with mistakes sometimes too when you're ahead in the count, just based on what the hitter is trying to do or what they're trying not to do, which is strike out. So I think that was just huge to me, is just getting ahead and getting that first pitch strike and then working from there.
And I know control, we mentioned it before too, that final year at Seattle, it seemed like the control wasn't fully there. And I know you mentioned a little bit of what went into that and trying to be too fine, but I know control is something that takes a while to come back after Tommy John surgery. Sometimes guys have it, but sometimes it's a process getting back. What allowed you to get it back eventually? And, what was that process like coming back from major elbow surgery to the point where you felt like you could finally spot the ball again?
It was just time. I think I just wasn't ready, physically I felt like I was ready, but mentally, and then just kind of feeling myself down the mound again. I think that's just time that really that's a big part of just being away from the game. I mean, I know you can watch it and all that stuff, but there's a lot different when you're on the mound and there's a hitter in the box and your job is to get him out. So I think it was just time, and then the more time and the more confident I got in myself, and then just really feeling myself down the mound and feeling how everything felt. And then obviously from the surgery, it taught me how to really take care of myself and try to stay as healthy as possible for the rest of my career.
And, as we mentioned, you were taken in the 29th round as you were basically recovering from Tommy John surgery, trying to build yourself up again, hadn't pitched that year. What pitcher do you think you would be had you decided to sign, and how close are you actually signing with the D-backs at that point?
I always wanted to go back to school. I thought my sophomore year we had an extremely talented group of players, and I thought that we could make a run and win a WAC championship and make a run in the postseason, just because we were kind of a dangerous team, and we were pretty stacked with talent from the arm standpoint, and we could swing it. So when I went down my sophomore year, I always felt like there was just a little bit of unfinished business, and I felt like I owed it to my team and all my brothers that I played with up there, and I felt like I needed to come back and try and win a WAC championship, because that's something that I've always wanted to do, is to win a championship and make a run in the postseason, because you never know what can happen in college baseball. So that's kind of where I was at mentally.
You also put your name in the record books at Seattle across all kinds of different categories, and your strikeout numbers obviously stand out, maybe most among those, but in wins and one of the lowest ERAs in school history and all that. To look back on your time there and the fact that it was, kind of up and down just in terms of the health, and still know that you put that body of work together, being a little bit removed from that now, what does that feel like? I mean, there's very likely, 10 years down the road, 15, 25, however long, you're going to be one of the guys that gets honored at an alumni day, or, there's a Tarik Skubal day for the Red Hawks as they have a home series. I mean, that's got to be something pretty amazing, even despite the fact that you missed an entire season with Tommy John surgery.
I try not to think about that too much. Those guys gave me an opportunity to play Division I baseball, and the coaching staff up there believed in me. My teammates believed in me. And then I think that's more important, is I only had one Division I offer, and they gave it to me, and I took it, and they believed in me from day one. And they do a great job up there. They care about every single athlete that comes in, every single baseball player that comes in. They really care about them. And they gave me the foundation to try and work hard and make the best of my situation. So, I mean, I've got a lot of respect for the coaching staff up there.
What is the reaction like from the guys that you played with there, your coaches there, Red Hawks fans, and even, going back to high school and the people who watched you grow up, to see where you are right now, being a guy who they got to cheer for in school, they got to know, a 9th round pick, and now all of a sudden you're a top 100 prospect in baseball. What's it like having their support as you get now to the upper minor leagues in your career and just your second season of pro ball?
It's huge to have the support of the city I'm from and the coaches that I played with, and even the teammates. I mean, I feel like that's a huge part. I bonded a lot with the players up there, and they still support me and reach out and text me. And I think that's really awesome, because this game can beat you up sometimes. And it's important to have that support system around you and a good foundation to kind of go and pursue my dream.
All right, Tarik, speaking of all the changes that have happened here, and now that we are in your second offseason, essentially, how is this different for you? Is it different for you at all? Knowing that you come off a full season of success, 100+ innings, trying to prep for even more than that going into next year. Looking back on where you were last December, how does that compare to where you are now?
I feel a lot more comfortable in what is expected of me and what I expect of myself. So now it's just taking care of my body and trying to get as strong as I can, so that way I can put up with a full season of work and be able to go every 5th day and give it the best that I got. So that's kind of my focus right now, is just getting as strong, getting healthy, and that's pretty much just the goal right now.
And we have you on for what's essentially our last show of 2019. So we're looking a lot forward, to 2020 and taking those next steps and starting to look at spring training here coming up. But when you look at 2020, I don't know if you're a big resolutions guy, but if you had any goal for the next year as you enter your second year of pro ball, what is the main goal outside of, just staying healthy?
Just to go have fun. Just go have fun and enjoy it, and enjoy the however many games I play, however many starts I make, and enjoy all the stuff that is around. I mean, what I'm doing. I think that's important, is just to go have fun and enjoy what you're doing and enjoy going to the baseball field every day.
Pretty cool stuff. Tarik Skubal is the fourth-ranked prospect in the Tigers organization, number 74 overall in baseball. You can follow him on Twitter at Tarik Skubal there. And, man, congrats on all the success, and enjoy the holidays, and best of luck heading into 2020. We'll be following.
Yeah, same goes for you. Thank you, guys.
No Benjamin Hill this week, who is out today. So, in one of our final, I guess this is our final episode of the year? We didn't really talk about this off air. Are we going to do one in between the, no, probably not. What do we do? How do we do this? I don't remember what we do.
No,
Every year we get to the end of the year and I'm like, what do we do for these?
I mean, it's just kind of a weird year because Christmas and the holidays is on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
New Year's is also on a Wednesday.
Right.
So yeah, we're going to be off for a little while.
Madness.
But yeah, so this will be our last of the year. It's a good time for this segment with Ben out. I think we're going to explore a little bit about what made the 2019 calendar year special when it comes to prospects and farm systems and things of that nature.
Let's do it. We'll dive in for the third segment in today's show, in which we discuss the things that we learned in 2019 and what we will carry forward into 2020 and beyond from this year. When you look back at the 2019 season, Sam, what the theme of this year, or the things that stand out most to you, what would you say they are?
I don't know if there was a great theme in terms of, what happened with prospects. The first thing that sticks out to me, I think, is the fact that, like, I go back to the beginning of the year, and one of the great things that happened in at least prospect coverage was the fact that teams seemed to there was like a crest in this decision making, and that Pete Alonso, Fernando Tatis Jr., and Chris Paddock opened the year on opening day rosters. Teams deciding, hey, it's worth it to us to have a full year of our best players, and these guys are our best players. It's something we've been beating against the wall for a long time of, if a guy is major league ready, he should get major league time. And service time clocks have something to do with that. And sometimes we don't see guys coming up until mid or late April. But the fact that changed this year in 3 pretty, high quality cases was really fun to see. I enjoyed that. Hopefully we can mark 2019 as a turning point in that. Maybe somebody like a Luis Robert starting 2020 in the majors would be another good sign in that way. We'll have to see if this is just an outlier or part of a growing trend. I would love it to become a growing trend, but right now 2019 stands out in that way. In terms of who really improved, I mean, we could talk about breakout prospects. We've done tons of that. Dylan Carlson was our breakout prospect of the year in terms of somebody who we think differently of now than we did at the beginning of the year. But I think the Miami Marlins system looks a lot better now than it did at the beginning of the year. I think they made a lot of internal improvements. I think adding Jazz Chisholm kind of shrewdly in the way that they did was very interesting. And even before that, Zach Gallen was a very good player. They added Jesus Sanchez, Braxton Garrett is healthy, Trevor Rogers is healthy, Edward Cabrera is a breakout prospect. They draft J.J. Bleday, who was one of the best hitters in college. That's a system that looks tremendously better. The Seattle Mariners system looks tremendously better at a time when they really need that to happen. But it's a while until I get excited about a player when I'm looking at the Mariners top 30. Until I'm not excited, I should say. Jared Kelenic at number 1, Julio Rodriguez at number 2, Logan Gilbert at number 3, Evan White, who signed a new deal and probably will be with the opening day roster, at number 4, Justin Dunn, who's got major league experience now, at number 5. Even Kyle Lewis is number 10, and he was their first round pick a couple of years ago. This Mariners system added a lot of upside, obviously, in getting guys like Kelenic and Dunn from the Mets last year. It seems like that could be the steal of at least the decade when it comes to prospect trades. But Rodriguez popping off in his first stateside season was really, really neat to see. And White continuing to grow. And that Arkansas team is somebody we talked about a bunch this year. So those two systems, I think, were maybe most improved and some teams that we learned the most about in 2019. And I guess the other one that really sticks out to me in terms of on-field performance was the AAA ball. I mean, we just saw offense take off in the International League and the Pacific Coast League. We've always known the PCL to be really offensively friendly, obviously, and we always take that with a grain of salt. But when guys were tearing it up in the IL as well, okay, well, there's something here to that. Major League Baseball did a study on the ball this year. They realized that the seams aren't as high as they used to be, and according to the study, it's really difficult to get that consistency that you want. So sometimes balls are going to have less drag than would be ideal, and that's how balls sail all over the place. Apparently, there was also something involved with air drying the balls, which is what they used to do, which now that they had a higher increase in production because they needed so many of these types of baseballs for both Major League Baseball and AAA, they decided to heat dry them. That also affected the balls in a way. We'll have to see how that's going to move going forward. But with so many guys taking off at AAA, we had to kind of keep that. I looked at WRC Plus, I think, more this year than I normally do, just because at least that controls for league environments in ways that other stats won't. You look at OPS, you look at home runs. So many guys hit 30 or more home runs in AAA this year, and you want to be like, that's great. What happened? It's like, well, they played in a different environment than they previously did. So again, that's going to require more study and keep a firmer eye on going forward. But it was definitely something different in 2019 that we hadn't seen before. In terms of stuff that stuck out to you, Tyler, what kind of seemed different about this year, or what did you learn as the months went on?
Yeah, I mean, I think I echo a lot of what you said. I just love how over the last couple of years, it doesn't really feel like the top end prospects in baseball have been whiffs. You know what I mean? Like, I think we've gotten down to a lot more of a, not an exact science. Predicting prospects and what they're eventually going to be at the big league level is always, extraordinarily difficult. But I feel like it gets rarer and rarer every year that we see prospects make this climb. They make their way into the top 50 and the top 25 and the top 10. Then they graduate, and all of a sudden they're very good major league players. Like, the difference, I think, between being an elite level minor leaguer and being a very good major leaguer has shrunk in recent years. And yeah, I mean, Vlad Guerrero Jr. goes up and looks human for a little while at the major league level, which is something that he did not look at all at the minor league level. That's going to happen. But it gives fans, I think, a chance to get excited about. If you were a Rays fan and you look at Wander Franco now and you look at his body of work in Bowling Green and in Charlotte this year, you envision what he looks like as the face of your franchise for a little while. Gavin Lux, and certainly didn't come out of nowhere, but was a guy who came into last season and 2 years ago being a little bit less known than some of the other talent that was climbing up in that system. Then all of a sudden, he's the number 2 ranked prospect in baseball. Luis Robert, we've known about him for a little while. Mackenzie Gore, sort of the same way. Joe Adell, a tough start to the season with the injuries and all that. He comes back and finishes strong. It's just all of these guys you kind of know are on the doorstep, and they're going to be there, and they're going to be great. That's really been so fun to watch, especially in the last couple of years with, the Ronald Acuñas of the world and the Juan Sotos of the world and the players who have immediately jumped in and made these massive impacts. I mean, going back to my first season at MILB.com, it was Carlos Correa then, and shortly after that it was Alex Bregman. And there are such easy ways to fall in love with a guy as you watch him climb the ranks, and then all of a sudden you hear about him every single night on MLB Network, and you're reading about him online, and you're watching the next era of the kids now in Major League Baseball. Pete Alonso, as Sam touched on a little while ago, being one of the guys who gets to start the season on a big league roster, not worried about the service time thing, none of that, becomes a National League Rookie of the Year, a tremendously likable guy, which we knew through his time coming up in the minor leagues. Somehow he's become more likable in the major leagues, which is not an easy thing to do. But that is, I continue to be amazed by that every year, that we see these guys, we see them climb, and then all of a sudden they're there, and it's like, oh yeah, this is what was forecasted for you. This is kind of what we expected. And in a business where so much is inexact, it's pretty cool to see how exact that has become. Now, obviously, it's not always the case. I mean, we see guys who fall off and their shine dims a little bit from year to year. But watching some of these dudes who have just erupted into the prospect conversation in recent years, and then all of a sudden are on the major league level making big impacts, that never gets old.
No, not at all. And one of the other interesting things, too, is you kind of mentioned this. It's even more interesting to see who works out and who doesn't in terms of what happens when they get there. Alonso doing what he did, like you said, shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who knew he won the Bauman Home Run Award. But the fact that that translated just as quickly, and then you have guys like Gavin Lux coming up, and I know it's the end of a long season and you're getting tested, whatever. Alonso had a full year to grow, but Gavin Lux didn't quite take off the way we expected, given how he torched everywhere else he played in 2019. Vlad Jr. is another great example. He comes up and doesn't, I wouldn't say struggle. He didn't struggle. He just didn't live up to the hype, and that's because he's super young, which is something we always said. He was doing stuff in the minors when he was super young that he didn't. But then you have Bo Bichette, who was right there alongside him, picking up extra base hits on a nightly basis. And that doesn't necessarily mean that their development is over. Development does not stop in the major leagues. But to get more answers on these guys with the closer they got, and then to get completely different answers by the time they actually saw top level pitching was a lot of fun and definitely educational, I would say.
Yeah. Going into 2020, what are the things that you feel like are the biggest lessons from this year that we take into next year?
One thing that I don't know if we've ever really said this much on this podcast, but it's a very well-known saying in baseball is there's no such thing as a pitching prospect. I remember the beginning of the year being fully on board of the Forrest Whitley train, the Kyle Wright train, thinking like, okay, these guys are really going to impact the major leagues this year. And for various reasons, that didn't happen. Whitley had some injuries he was going through, but was really ineffective at AAA to begin the year. Wright had a couple looks at the majors, but never broke through at AAA in the way we thought, even though his stuff seemed to be relatively there. I just feel like pitchers are so much more volatile. And just when we think, like a Mackenzie Gore, he's basically what Whitley was a year ago at this point. Mackenzie Gore, I mentioned him before for the all MILB team, best left-handed pitcher in minor league baseball this year. Getting super excited, thinking like, okay, the Padres are basically planning for him to get to the majors next year. None of them will say that on record, but you feel like it's true between him and Luis Patino. And who knows what happens when he gets to AAA? Maybe he falters with the ball. Maybe, he has a history of blister problems. What happens when he throws with a new one? Thinking you have the answers based on 1 year alone, especially with pitching, where one little tweak, one small loss of effectiveness can make a huge difference, is something I always have to remind myself, but especially after a year like this one.
And the 2019 season obviously has closed out with some crazy stuff in the championship runs. We saw some insane performances. The Texas League final comes to mind with the big rally late, and some moments that I think stitch themselves into your mind that you will remember forever. Is there anything from the 2019 season that you really feel like, oh yeah, that's going to be the lingering thing? We ran through the best games, the best performances, all that type of stuff on the site. You can go back and find those stories. What about 2019? What's the kind of lingering game or moment or performance that you think you'll remember looking back on this season?
Yeah, I mean, we did. This is the easy answer, and anybody who reads the site will know that this is probably coming. But the fact that Casey Mize threw a no-hitter in his Double-A debut was just insane. I love it when guys do come up with hype and validate it and fulfill it that quickly. Was awesome. Obviously, Mize had some issues the rest of the way, but for somebody who we thought could be pushed really aggressively and then came up and pitched for Erie and threw a no-hitter in that first one was kind of amazing. The amount of 4-homer games this year, I feel like was pretty high. Will Benson's being one of them that stuck out. The amount of cycles we had was up this year. To kind of single one out would be a little weird. We talked about that Lancaster Lake Elsinore crazy game. That's one of those games in which you always think oh yeah, this game's over. I can leave now. And then you're like, well, there was that time somebody came back from down, what was it, down 10?
Yep. Down
with
10,
1 out to go.
down to their final strike.
Yeah. And I love stuff like that where you're just like, oh no, this isn't just some theoretical thing. Theoretically they could come back and do that. They actually did come back and win the game. Reminds me a lot of, when I was at BU our freshman year, we won the national hockey title despite being down 2 goals with a minute left. We scored twice in the final minute, scored in overtime. And every hockey game I go to now.
Miami of Ohio, correct?
Miami of Ohio, that's correct, 2009. Every hockey game I go to from now on, I don't care what the score is. It could be down 4 goals with 2 minutes left. I still think there's somebody who could pull a Matt Gilroy and do a backhanded pass to Zach Cohen for the game winner, or to Nick Bonino or whatever. Games like that, and because the minor leagues are so vast and so big and there's so many games every day, the possibility of this happening minor league wide is higher than you think it would be. Even to your specific game, if you're going to a game, never doubt that could be the special one in minor league baseball that night, because the potential is always there.
And we encourage you to tweet your favorite MILB memories from the season at us, or send us an email. Get in touch however you would like. We're both on Twitter. Sam's at Sam Dykstra MILB. I'm at Tyler Mon. The show email address is podcast@MILB.com. And we'll share some of your minor league baseball love if you get in touch with some of your favorite moments from the 2019 season. Doesn't even have to be just baseball related. You can give us the pictures of your kids with a mascot, or your dog at Bark in the Park night, whatever it is. Get in touch. And we will be happy to pass it along in this time of year when we celebrate things. And also they host drone races in stadiums because we're all bored and looking for something to do that isn't baseball. So with that, we'll be back to wrap up the show next. Wrapping up this week's episode of the show before the show, one more reminder. Over 90 minor league baseball teams will vie for the Copa de la Diversión crown in 2020, each with an identity as unique and impactful as its area's Hispanic community. Follow minor league baseball on social at MILB and the Copa website at MILB.com/fans/Copa to find out more about the initiative's newest members. And we're saying goodbye for 2019.
Yeah, no, and as we always say, we've done this for Thanksgiving, but it always bears repeating. Thank you to everybody who's listened in 2019. Thank you for reaching out to us, telling us you've listened. The amount of people I meet on the road, when I go to a Futures game or go to the winter meetings, and people bring up the podcast and say they've listened to this interview or that interview, or they listen every week. We're grateful for you whenever you've joined us, however you've joined us. 2019 was a great season, not across just minor league baseball, not just for the site, not just for the show, but I think for all parties involved with this, speaking on behalf of Ben, who isn't here right now, but and for Tyler, I'm grateful for everybody who listens to us, who participates in the show in some way. You guys make this great. You guys push us to do this every week and bring you guys news across the minors, and hopefully keep you updated on guys you will be hearing in the actual show before long. So thank you for everything you guys have done for us in 2019. We'll see you on the other side in 2020, and can't wait to bring you everything that's to come, and for us to be surprised and to see what's to come, because we never really know what's around the corner.
He's Sam. I'm Tyler. We'll talk to you then. Bye.